In this video, we'll create a heat map on a map of the United States. We'll be using the dataset murders.csv, which is data provided by the FBI giving the total number of murders in the United States by state. Let's start by reading in our dataset and calling it murders. So we'll use the read.csv function to read in the file murders.csv. Let's take a look at this data by using the str function. We have 51 observations for the 50 states plus Washington, D.C., and 6 different variables: the name of the state, the population density, the number of murders that used guns, and the rate of gun ownership. A map of the United States is included in R. Let's load the map and call it States Map. We can load the map with the map data function, which takes as an argument state in quotes. Let's see what this looks like with the str function. This is just a data frame summarizing how to draw the United States. To plot the map, we'll use the polygons geometry of ggplot. So start by typing ggplot, and then as the first argument, our data frame states map. And then in the aesthetic, we want to define the x-axis to be long, the y-axis to be lat for longitude and latitude, and then group equals the group variable in our data frame. Close both parentheses, and now we want to add the geometry polygon, where the first argument, fill, is going to be equal to white. This will fill our states just with the color white. And then we want to define color equals, and then in quotes, black. This will outline the states in black. Lastly, we just need to add the coordinate map, and then in parentheses and quotes, Mercator. Now in your R graphics window, you should see a map of the United States. Before we can plot our data on this map, we need to make sure that the state names are the same in the murders data frame and in the states map data frame. In the murders data frame, the state names have a capital letter starting the state name. But in the states map data frame, the state names are all lowercase letters. So let's create a new variable called region to match the state name variable in the states map data frame in our murders data frame. So we'll call this variable region, so murders $region equals toLower. Remember the toLower function from the text analytics week, where it will take as an argument the state variable of our murders data frame. This will just convert the state variable to all lowercase letters and store it as a new variable called region. Now we can join the states map data frame with the murders data frame using the merge command, which matches rows up based on a shared variable. We just defined the variable region, which exists in both data frames. So we'll call our new data frame murder map and use the merge function, where the first argument is our first data frame, states map, and the second argument is our second data frame, murders. Then we need to add a by argument, which just defines what variable to merge them on. In our case, it's region. Let's take a look at the data frame we just created. We have the same number of observations here that we had in the states map data frame, but now we have both the variables from the states map data frame and the variables from the murders data frame, which were matched up based on the region variable. Now let's plot the number of murders on our map of the United States. So we'll use the ggplot function, where the first argument is our data frame, murder map, and then for our aesthetic, we want to define x equals long and y equals lat, like before, as well as group equals group, but this time we want to indicate that fill should be equal to murders, our murders variable. Again, we want to add the polygon geometry, where here we'll just specify color equals black so that the states are outlined in black, and then we'll add the scale fill gradient layer, which will define the coloring of our map. We want low values of murders to be closer to black and high values to be closer to red. Lastly, we'll just make sure legend shows up on our map by typing guide equals legend. Now, if you look at the graphics window, you should see that each of the states is colored by the number of murders in that state. Higher number of murders have states colored more in red. So it looks like here California and Texas have the highest number of murders. But is this just because they're the most populous states? Let's plot a map of the population of each state to check. So just scroll up back to our previous command, and instead of fill equals murders, we want fill equals population. And hit enter. Now in our graphics window, we have a population map, but it looks almost exactly the same as the murders map. So we need to plot the murder rate instead of the number of murders so that we aren't just plotting a population map. So let's create a new variable that's the number of murders per 100,000 population. So in our murder map data frame, we'll define a new variable called murder rate, which is equal to the murders variable divided by the population variable times 100,000. Now let's redo our plot with the fill equal to murder rate. So just up arrow twice to get back to the plotting command, and then instead of fill equals population, type fill equals murder rate. And hit enter. This plot is surprisingly maroon looking. There aren't really any red states. Why? It turns out that Washington, D.C. is an outlier with an abnormally high murder rate. But it's so small that we can't even see it on the map. So let's redo our plot, removing any observations with murder rates above 10, which will exclude Washington, D.C. So just hit the up arrow again to get back to the plotting command, and after guide equals legend, type a comma, and add limits equals, and then a C, parentheses, 0.9, comma 10, and close the parentheses and hit enter. Now in the R graphics window, we see a variety of colors on the map. It looks like the murder rate is pretty high in the state of Louisiana. In this video, we saw how we can make a heat map on a map of the United States, which is very useful for organizations like the World Health Organization or the Centers for Disease Control, who want to show data to the public organized by state or country. In the next video, we'll conclude by discussing the analytics edge of predictive policing.